Most men have no idea that emotional safety underlies everything that happens in your marriage. Most men have no idea that it is female emotional safety that basically makes or breaks your marriage.
Not providing emotional safety will lead to a couple of things. At best, a very mediocre marriage, and at worst, divorce.
And I know this not only for myself going through this firsthand, but also from helping hundreds of men go through this process in their own marriage and come out the other side of it in an amazing connected relationship.
Now, that being said, we fully acknowledge that it always takes two. No one is saying that just because the male half or one half of the relationship doesn't provide something that the other half needs, then that's the end of the marriage. That's the fault. It's one very, very important piece that we're touching on today.
Yeah, and this video is intended for men. So we're going to be talking about what men need to know and what men need to work on. So if you're expecting a video that's going to be talking about both things, you're going to be disappointed, you're going to get bitter. This video is for men who want to understand the relationship better and take actions themselves. If you want to learn what she can do, there's probably other videos out there for you.
Because as a woman who's had to do a lot of work to help heal our relationship, I can speak to that very well.
Okay, so we're going to be going over three things. Number one is what emotional safety actually means to a woman, both from my perspective and more importantly from my wife Whitney's perspective. Number two is what men get wrong that leads them to either give up or think that the marriage is not savable. And number three is things that you can start doing today to stop this from becoming a big problem in your relationship or even to pull your relationship back from the brink of divorce. So first thing would be, from your perspective, what is emotional safety to a woman? Because it's very different than what emotional safety is to a man, if you even think about what emotional safety is for you ever.
So I just want to start by saying that when men provide this emotional safety we're talking about, it will quite literally change a woman's life. Women don't have emotional safety to begin with, for the most part. We've most of us have had a terrible experience with other women. We've been treated poorly by other women, mostly other women actually. We also end up having terrible experience. We can also have bad experiences with men, but mostly we go through life feeling very insecure and having very, very low self-esteem and self-worth. And again, I'm not speaking about all women, but a lot of us end up, living our adolescent years into adulthood feeling that way. So when we speak about emotional safety that men provide, it is magic. It is something that we as women can't get anywhere else but from a man. And when we get it from our husbands, it creates this environment where we truly can flourish and turn into the wives that we're meant to be. Which is, and what I mean by that is wives that have nothing but adoration and respect and appreciation for the men in front of us.
And just to kind of give the other side of the coin, when she is not in a state of emotional safety, she's going to be seeking safety everywhere that she can find it, which might mean she's going to be making some erratic decisions. And I see this a lot with men that I work with couples that we both work with, where she will be feeling unsafe in the relationship and she'll start making some really, really bad decisions that seem really selfish, that seem out of alignment with what's best for the family, what's best for the kids. And that's because safety is such a driving force for women that when they don't have it, they are going to do anything that they need to get it or that they think is going to provide safety, even if it's at the expense of everything else. So
sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm smiling when Matt says that because I immediately had an image in my head of teenage girls. Think of teenage girls. They're crazy. We all know that, whether you've been one, have a sister, have experience, when you were a teenager yourself, had a girlfriend who was also a teenager. Yes. So just that's the image that came to my mind. I thought that might be a good illustration. Grown women are not teenagers, no, but they have those little girls, those little teenagers inside of them, still very, very much alive.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good thing to think about is when your wife is in a state of stress, overwhelm, anger, hurt, whatever it might be, and she's maybe being illogical or she's bringing up things that seem irrelevant from the past or she's being even factually contradictory, is just remind yourself, okay, I might not be speaking to my adult wife right now who might be a freaking logical scientist or an executive or whatever she might be. I'm speaking to the hurt little girl inside of her. And what she needs is not for me to factually correct her or to call her out or to get really defensive and hurt myself. She just needs me to wrap my arms around her in reality or just metaphorically and say, it's okay, little girl, daddy's here, daddy loves you, right? Every girl has that need in her. Just like men, as men, we have that need inside of us just to like let the little boy out sometimes and have fun and laugh at fart jokes and be with our buddies, right? We all have that little kid inside of us. And part of your role, if you want to own your role as a man, is to be that source of stability in those moments when she's not being stable, when she just needs daddy to hug her and say everything's okay. And another angle that I want to touch on, and I hope you can, give some color to this, Whitney, is because we don't think as men in terms of safety in the same way that women do, we don't notice when women are feeling unsafe because that's just not the framework that we operate on. This isn't a perfectly accurate analogy, but it kind of illustrates the point. Men have more of a predator mindset, right? We're like, we want something and we're going to go get it, and the rest of the world kind of disappears when we're in pursuit of that thing. And women have more of a prey mindset, which is, where are the threats coming from? Very easy to react, very quick to have that threat detection system go off on high alert and then act based on that threat detection system. And we don't understand this as men. And one of the most important areas you need to understand this is that you might know with absolute confidence you're never going to hurt her, hit her, abuse her, do anything like that. And she might also logically know you're never going to do that. But the fact of the matter is, it's a very short time in human history where it wasn't just normal for men to get physical with women when they thought they were out of line or when they were having a bad day, whatever the reason was. It's been a very, very short period of time that hasn't been normal. It's still normal in a lot of the world. And so part of that mammal brain, that survival brain, that lizard brain in the back of our heads, she's very aware that she is with somebody who's probably got 50 pounds on her, who's probably much stronger, much faster, much more capable of physical violence. And so when you are angry, or when you're even just annoyed, or when you're being judgmental or insulting or trying to dominate her energetically or emotionally, part of her brain is going, oh shit, I am trapped alone with a predator who's bigger, faster, stronger, and more capable of violence than I am. And I first heard that in a book or in a recording of a seminar by Alison Armstrong called Understanding Women. And I remember we were driving in the car, we were on a long 35-hour road trip up the East Coast. And I remember looking at Whitney and going, is that true? And her response was like, yeah, obviously. And it had never occurred to me once ever that Whitney was afraid of me. And it never occurred to me that when we're getting in an argument in the car, because this is another story that happened, I don't know, a couple of years ago, we were arguing in the car after a date, and I kind of caught myself and I was like, hey, Whitney, are you feeling unsafe right now? And she was like, well, of course I am. We're on this dark country road. There's no other cars around. We're stuck in here. No one would hear me. And I thought we were just trying to resolve a conflict. I thought we were, just having a productive conversation. Whereas Whitney was experiencing being trapped alone with a predator in a car in the middle of nowhere. And again, that's Whitney's lizard brain. It's not
a conscious,
it's not a, yeah.
I wasn't feeling like, oh, my husband who's never hit me before, who's never been physically abusive, is all of a sudden just going to punch me in the head. Like it wasn't.
But that threat detection system was still going on.
Yes. But what was going on was I was shutting down emotionally. I became very, very quiet. I became very, very afraid. And because of the work we do, because of the research we've done, and because we understand the deep inner workings of how women operate and what women are truly feeling, I was able to articulate that, yes, I do feel unsafe. I am scared. I am worried on some level that, you may hurt me. Even though consciously, I know he wouldn't. Like, that would be insane. And if I were to, even say, oh, I'm afraid that Matt's going to hit me, like that would just, I couldn't even possibly say those words with a straight face, right? But in these moments where he's loud, he sounds angry. I am scared. I do end up kind of retreating inside of myself like a little girl who's afraid of getting reprimanded. And it's like, and I just want to stop. I want him to stop being angry, and even though he is just trying to get to the bottom of it, and we're just trying to solve a problem, it doesn't end up feeling that way for me at that time. I just want to get out of there. I want it to be over, and then nothing ends up getting resolved because I'm in a state of fight or flight. I'm in a state of stress, and I can't have a coherent conversation. I can't contribute in a meaningful way because I'm really uncomfortable with someone being so angry around me.
In that situation, the average wife, she's going to do, one of three things. She's going to comply and just say whatever that she needs to say to get you to calm down. And she might, lie or say she's okay with things that she isn't, just to make the conflict go away. She might retreat or withdraw, which can seem in the moment like, okay, she's not willing to actually work with me. She quits too easily. She's an avoidant. Or she might try to come over the top and say, okay, you want to make me afraid? Well, I'm going to be bigger than you. I'm going to be more masculine than you. I'm going to come over the top. And a lot of women do that. And then, of course, as a man, you're thinking, they're going, okay, like that is not the kind of wife that I want. This makes me feel disrespected. It makes me feel unattracted to her. This is nothing that I want in a wife right now. And whenever that's happening, and of course, again, There's lots of videos you can go watch to learn what the wife should do differently. This is for men. What you can do in that situation is say, okay, what can I do? What part of this encounter that involves two people can I control? And that's only your own actions, right? It's like, well, maybe I can create an environment of safety so that that hard outer masculine shell that she's got on, that protective mechanism, is no longer necessary, and we can actually have a productive, effective conversation about how we can solve this problem in our relationship.
Yeah, if we can prevent the other person from becoming defensive, then you can have an open and honest conversation. I would akin safety with women to respect for men. So men need to be respected. They absolutely need it. And I understand that as a wife and through the work that we do. And I make sure that I work very hard. I mean, say work hard. It's easy to respect him, to be fair, but I do have to still watch my tone sometimes and how I react to certain situations, because I want to make sure that there isn't a single situation or encounter that we have where he walks away feeling disrespected by me. That's something that I work really hard on. And he has to work in the same way to make me feel safe in all of our interactions, because I can easily put up my walls and I can go into my masculine because I don't feel safe in that situation. And if I make him feel disrespected, well, what does that create? Right? What am I creating in him? I'm creating walls with him as well. And then he becomes angry and upset. So while this video isn't meant to be for what both people can do, just to shed a little bit of light, that is...
Yeah, it takes work for both people.
Oh, 100% it does. Like,
Yeah.
I have to work, and I wouldn't even say it's work, it's a practice at this point in our marriage, in the sense that I'm practicing every day to respond, and to respond in a way that conveys respect, and to find the things that I can appreciate in him, and et cetera, et cetera. But because it's so easy just to be in your own little world and just forget that, forget the needs of your partner.
And first of all, that was brilliantly said. I love the respect and safety analogy.
Oh, thanks.
But on exactly that line, like when she feels unsafe, I can guarantee you she is going to forget about all my needs. When she goes into fight or flight mode, like when a man goes into fight or flight mode, everything disappears. You start focusing on different things. You tune things out. Nothing exists except how can I get to safety. And so a few things you need to recognize about how you can make her feel unsafe, right? There's the obvious one, like being angry or intimidating in some way, and you're bigger and stronger. And then there's the less obvious ones. We've made other content about this. You can go watch this, but she needs to feel seen. Right? If she feels like you don't understand her, you don't understand what's important to her, you don't understand and value her perspective, you're not willing to take the time to understand why she's afraid of certain things, why certain things matter to her, then she goes, okay, he doesn't understand me or my needs, which means he doesn't care about me enough to want to know them, which means he's not actually going to protect me and take care of me and fend for me in those areas. So she has to feel seen. She also has to feel supported. If she feels like she is all on her own and all of this responsibility and pressure is only on her shoulders, and she has nobody to help her bear that load, she has nobody to fend for her, protect her, take care of her needs, then she's going to feel very, very unsafe again, because she's exposed to the world. All this pressure and this burden is weighing down on her, and there's no man there to help her bear that burden. She's going to feel unsafe. She's going to feel unprotected. And then thirdly, she has to feel special. Because if I am regularly doing what so many guys do, which is I'm following a bunch of thirsty accounts on Instagram, I'm spending my time on OnlyFans or watching porn, I'm checking out women in front of her, I've got pictures of women in bikinis covered in my garage, I'm not making Whitney feel safe, because she's going, this guy, and this is kind of an evolutionary brain thing, if this guy has his eyes on so many women who she's going to think are more attractive than she is, which they're obviously not,
Well,
but they could be,
I think
they could be a 3 out of 10 and she still thinks that. And when that happens, she's going to go, oh, okay, I'm not special to him. He cares more about these women. He has a bunch of women that he wants to protect and care for. When it comes down to a survival event or providing for me or protecting me, I don't know that he's going to choose me as the woman, because he's got all these women that he's got his eyes on. Or maybe you have a bad relationship with your mom or with a female friend or a female coworker, and when there's a little bit of tension between your wife and that other female, you take the other female side. It's like a boom, right? Again, she's not feeling special. And in the female psyche, if she's not the most important woman in the world to you, well, then you're going to choose to protect somebody else over her. She's going to feel really unsafe. So again, we've got lots of content on that, on the 4S's, safe, seen, special, supported, how to figure out which one it is and how to address it. But it's important to keep that in mind. Safety permeates everything that happens in your relationship with a woman. And unless you understand it, you are not going to give her what she needs, which means you're not going to get back what you need in return. Anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I could go on and on about how as women we can encourage men to make us feel safe, but and have a nice synergy, but I think that's for another video, for another day.
Okay, so then why don't you talk a little bit about what happens to a woman in a relationship when she doesn't have safety, and not necessarily just in a moment, because those moments are obviously going to happen, and there's lots of moments that we have like that. But what happens in a relationship for months and years if she is existing very regularly or very often or most of the time in a state where there is no safety in the relationship?
So women who are in a state where they feel very unsafe, and really it also comes down to feeling unsupported. Those things come together. She will try to find safety in other environments, whether that's with her friends, with her family, in her community, in some other way. Maybe she might even do it in a way of seeking attention. So posting certain pictures or videos on Instagram to get attention from other people, to make her feel like she is valuable somewhat in society, and that there are others out there who can help her feel safe. Now, where this becomes, first of all, that's all a problem, because women should get their greatest sense of support, or a feeling of safety and support from within themselves and with their partner. It's virtually impossible for us to get that from within ourselves. We really shine when we feel safe from our husbands, from our partners. But where this becomes a big issue is when they start looking for support in other men. This is where relationships can really break down, and and just cause so much trauma and pain between a couple. And I'm not saying that she'll necessarily go all the way as to have an affair. I know that's where a lot of people's heads go, but I just mean finding safety with other men, even in the form of like a friendship, and in the form of security from them, as as someone they speak to or they get attention from, even just getting attention online from other men. And that is a recipe for disaster. That's a recipe for the degradation of a marriage, for a woman to seek male safety elsewhere. And it can even be just from, their brother or their dad. And obviously, there's nothing sexual going on there. But it's replacing the husband with another man to provide safety.
One of the things that we see a lot with clients is, even if somebody, if his wife isn't having an affair, she's got a male friend that she spends a lot of time talking to, right? And usually this is a case where she's getting some kind of emotional safety out of that relationship. She gets to talk about everything that's going bad in her life and how much this thing sucks and that thing's terrible. She gets to really just share things that maybe she doesn't feel comfortable sharing with her husband. Now, obviously we're not saying that's okay. That's on her. She has to own that. She has to take responsibility for that. I feel like that's very obvious. But again, what can you do as a man to either recover from a situation where that's happening or to prevent that from happening in the first place? It's like, well, make sure you can be that source of safety. And this starts in really small ways, because we're going to talk a little bit now about what you can actually do. Right? So one of the really important things to understand is, again, safety permeates everything. So if your wife goes to the grocery store and then she calls you and goes, oh, I came here to get, this type of beans, but they only had these type of beans. It's so annoying. And your response is, yeah, okay, well, why are you calling me to tell me that? That's a waste of time. Bye. She's just learned in that encounter, oh, I can't share things with him. He's not a safe place to share things. Right? Now, in your world and in my world, that doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's pointless. It's boring to hear about. Stop wasting my time. And we all know, we all get that. Whitney gets that I feel that way.
And even when you hear it, even as I just hear him tell the story, I also have the same thought runs through my head, where I go, that's ridiculous. How could she be upset about that? But how a person feels about a situation versus the reality of the situation are two very, very different things.
Yeah, and again, I'm using kind of a stupid example because, number one, it's something we can all understand. But more importantly, number two, it's because she just learned in that interaction, I can't share openly with him because I could get a negative reaction, I could get a shutdown. And part of what her brain will do is go, oh man, if he couldn't even be patient with me about buying the wrong beans, well, he's definitely not going to be patient with me if I share this really important thing in our relationship with him, right? And so you actually have to build trust at a really, really small level. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to hear about the beans for 35 minutes, right? She should have girlfriends that she can go talk to about the beans, and they can spend 3 hours talking about the beans, and good for them, right? But it does mean you have to just be present in the moment and say, oh, sorry, baby, sorry to hear that. I know you really wanted those other beans, right? And she goes, oh, little moment of connection. She's happy. And then she goes about her day and you never have to hear about the beans again. And if the bean talk goes on too long, be like, hey, baby, I was really interested in hearing about the beans, but I'm hitting my limit here. I got to tap out. I don't care about beans that much. And if you've already established that connection and empathized and listened, like she's going to be fine with you saying, hey, I got to tap out. It's been 3 minutes on beans. I can't do this. She's going to get it. She's going to respect it. She's going to think it's cute. It's totally fine. But you have to establish that foundation of trust. And if you establish the foundation of trust about the wrong beans, then she'll share a little bit about how stuff is going at the office for her. Then she'll, and if that goes well, then she'll share about how she's having conflict with somebody at the office. Then she'll share about interpersonal conflict with her friends. Then she'll share about things that are wrong in the relationship. And then she'll share about her past trauma. And, but it builds up at all these levels of trust. And if at any point she senses that, okay, this guy is no longer safe to share with, you don't get to those higher levels of trust. And this is why so many men get blindsided when their wives leave them, is they go, I thought things were pretty good. And the only reason they think things are pretty good is because she never felt safe enough to share that things aren't good. She started sharing smaller things, or she shared little things he could improve in the relationship, and his response was to get insulting or to shut down or get defensive or to somehow basically stop her from sharing because he didn't like how it felt or he thought she was wrong or stupid. And so she learned, oh, this is not a safe place to share. And so she stopped sharing. And so those problems build and build and build and build. And again, you can complain that this is unfair, and it kind of is. You can complain that she should be doing more work on her own, and she probably should. Or you can look at what you can control as a man, and you can say, well, I can create an emotional environment of safety where she feels open to share with me. And that involves sometimes eating my own ego, sometimes dealing with my own insecurities, my own triggers, not responding from that place, but responding from a place of curiosity, patience, empathy, and emotional stability. Yeah, so if you can start building that in the relationship, then you won't get to a place where your problems pile up for 3 years and she's walking out the door. She'll be comfortable sharing her problems with you because she'll go, hey, I don't even know necessarily, and I want you to add some color on this, I don't really even know necessarily what I'm unhappy about, why I'm pissed off in the relationship, why I feel so hurt and angry at him right now. But I know that if I share my feelings in a really messy way, he'll give me the time to kind of circle around the issue and spin in circles until I kind of figure out what I'm upset about, and then he's going to be patient and he's going to understand me. Then we're going to get back to a place of connection. And sometimes if I'm trying to get to point B, from point A to point B, it's pretty much a straight line. If Winnie's trying to go from point A to point B, it's like point A, point M, point 7, point number sign, point at symbol, and then eventually to point B. And sometimes it's like just my presence and my willingness to be like, hey, this is not going to piss me off. I'm not going to get upset. I'm just going to be here and kind of guide you through your own internal, whatever you're facing. That creates a deep level of safety.
So women often don't know what they're feeling. I mean, that's the root of it all, is that we're not, spinning in circles because it's fun or because we want to confuse you, even though it seems like we want to confuse you a lot. That's not our motivation. It's that we just don't understand what we're feeling half the time because we have so many things we're feeling at once.
Can I pause there?
Yes.
That's a really hard one for guys to understand because I can feel all the same emotions that Whitney feels, but I typically feel them one at a time, right? Like anger and sadness and hurt and loneliness. There's some overlap, but like they're kind of separate. And I've learned this with my daughter who's 7 now. Like she can in the space of 1 minute go from hysterically laughing to bawling her eyes out, back to hysterically laughing to like jumping around playfully and then being furious. And she can snap in and out of them all with like no transition. She's like,
we've never seen that with our son, not once.
Never once. Never once.
So people can, say that as much as they want that men and women are the same. I think those people are interesting, and we don't align with that belief system. So if you do, it's fair. Maybe not the video for you, but our son and daughter are very different people, and we see this across the board with all of our friends who have boys and girls, right? Girls are just often, off the wall, and as their daughters grow older, dads will often say, "Oh my gosh, my daughter's crazy. Wait till she's a teenager. You have no idea what's coming." And
there's a reason.
And there's a reason, right? Because women just, we operate in a different way. We have a cycle. We have a cycle that is 28 days, not 24 hours, unlike men. Our hormones literally dictate everything, right? They dictate whether you're hungry. They dictate how you sleep. If you sleep, they dictate how you're feeling, whether you produce muscle, whether you can make a baby. Like hormones are everything, and women's hormones are going like this, right? And so we can't understand most of the time what the heck's even happening to us. Matt has gotten into the habit, which is frigging brilliant, of tracking my cycle, which is, I think we should do a whole video on tracking a woman's cycle, because he tracks my cycle and he knows that the few days before my period, which is, my period's coming tomorrow, so the last few days have been a little rocky, to say the least. And he knows, he's like, he goes on his phone and he goes up, okay.
I literally did that, yeah, because yesterday,
it's her.
Yeah, things were looking dark, and
I was not between us, but I was I was in a really sad.
You were in a dark place,
yeah.
And I was just starting to get annoyed and frustrated and pissed off, And then I looked at my phone and I was like, I kind of opened up that app and I was like, oh, okay. And then I understood like, okay, I'm not going to try to like get to the bottom of this. I'm not going to try to put her in a better mood and fix whatever issue we have in our relationship. It's like, I'm going to bring her some snacks and I'm going to shut the door and I'm going to hang out with the kids.
Yeah. So that's a whole other piece of it is like, you men gotta understand that like, we're not little men. We're not little yous, right? We have a lot going on in our system and in our brains that you could just not possibly comprehend. And we're going to do our best as the couple of sovereign man to help you understand your wives as best you can. And also, we're also opening up our program to women coming very, very soon to help women understand their husbands and teach them how they can help facilitate a better relationship with their husbands and bring out the best in them and both partners. But anyway, yeah, we're here to hopefully help you understand that.
And also understand when you can't understand. Like,
right.
Here's when you should try to
of
understand
course.
and here's when you should not try to understand.
No, just let us be, right? We as women will shock the, pardon my French, shock the shit out of you men a lot of the time with what's going on with our feelings and our emotions. But the honest to goodness truth is that we just don't know what we're feeling a lot of the time, and we can get there, but it does. There's a lot of this, and it's not because we want to be like this. Trust me, we don't.
So one more thing I wanted to talk about.
Did we miss something you asked earlier?
No, I think you're good.
Okay, cool.
One other thing I wanted to talk about is what changed for you, because I think this will really, because most of the men who are watching this are not watching this because their relationship's at an amazing place. They would be watching something else, right?
Right.
So safety is likely lacking. I can guarantee if your relationship's not at a good place, 100% guarantee she's not feeling safe as often as she needs to. But what changed for you when I started providing that emotional safety for you in the relationship?
Like the process, or like what happened by when I actually started feeling it securely?
What happened when you, because initially when you start showing up in a safe way, she's not really going to trust it. It's
not
going to
gonna
take some
trust it.
time
Yeah.
before it's like losing a callus, right? You don't just decide to lose a callus. It goes away when there's not a lot of friction, right? Her state of not feeling safe will go away when she's experienced safety for long enough that she no longer feels unsafe.
Women are very suspicious, especially with initial change. We don't believe.
You don't trust it.
We don't trust
And there's a whole process on how they test it. We'll make other videos on that. No, but what I'm asking is,
And by the way, I'm not here to say that we're not annoying and that it's not really difficult to be with a woman. I get it.
It's all worth it. It's all worth it. Doesn't seem like it in the moment, but it is. It is after. No, what were the benefits that you experienced, or how did your view of the relationship, or your commitment to the relationship, or your, how you treated me, or how you felt change after you accepted the new safety that I started providing?
It was like a light that had never been turned in my body, that had never truly been on. It was kind of always flickering, was finally on, and like I came alive in all of the best ways.
And how long did that take you? Like there's stages, like it was gradual, right?
Well, see, I didn't know it was happening as it was happening, so it's tough to nail it down. But how long did it take, or like?
I would say, tell me if I'm wrong. I would say it was a few months of me it was several months of me showing up in a new way.
Oh yeah, for
before
sure.
you kind of started going, okay, I think this is real.
Yeah.
And then, because for the first few months I started showing up as safe, like you didn't really do anything differently. You were just like, it was all the same. And then you kind of started shifting, but then there was all these like, there's no bottom to how safe you can make somebody feel. And like, we haven't found that bottom yet. We're getting closer and closer all the time, and things are improving.
Bottom? What do you mean by that?
Like, okay, I finally got to the bottom of it.
Oh, gotcha.
Right?
Sorry, yeah.
But let's say a year in, because I didn't have me helping me, I was figuring all this out. It took a long time, but let's say a year in when you're like, okay, whoa, like I've realized like this is actually safe. What was that like for you? So you explain the light going on.
There was so much. So I would say there was a bit of resistance initially, because once a woman finally feels safe, she realizes that she's married to gold, that she's married to a man that, that like most women would only dream of being married to. And so there is a whole lot of like self-resentment and self-shame, because you start recognizing and acknowledging how you weren't showing up in the relationship. So for me, I started realizing like, I was realizing like, wow, I have the most amazing man ever. Like, look at all this effort he's put in. Look how he's showing up for me. And it was like I was married to a different man, basically. And all I could focus on was the woman I had been and the woman that I wasn't showing up as for him. Like I started to feel unworthy of him. So it was really, really painful. And that was my journey anyways. And
very common.
I think for a lot of women, it's easier at that point, which is kind of a scary thing to say, but it's kind of almost easier to walk away, because then you don't have to face your own.
Yeah, well, I see that a lot, where he'll start showing up in a new way and she'll kind of get used to it, and they'll get to this new level, and then all of a sudden she'll pull back big time because she's like, oh wait, I'm finally in such a happy place and I feel so safe. And now she's seeing the entire relationship through you as the awesome husband. So when she looks back at the history of the relationship, she's seeing you as the awesome husband now. And she's going, oh man, I have not been a good wife. I didn't show up in this way. I did these things I shouldn't have done. I didn't try hard here. I didn't give him time here. I didn't give him respect here. And that weight is a lot. So it's kind of funny, you first provide safety, and then there's another stage to this, and we have like multiple stages we teach our clients, but there's another stage where it's like, you're going to actually have to counsel her through her own pain, because that's going to now be getting in the way of her accepting the safety. And this is especially exacerbated by pretty much all women in the modern world, because so many women grew up in homes that didn't have a dad, or dad wasn't always there, or it was stepdad who might not have been great. They probably had bad experiences with ex-boyfriends. They've had, traumatic experiences with men. And so many women don't have a natural foundation of viewing the masculine as safe, right? And so there's this whole new kind of process of her getting used to masculine safety when maybe she's never experienced it before. Now, if she had a really great upbringing and stuff, then it might be a much easier road for you. But on average, women have experienced a lot of trauma with men, maybe even from childhood with their father, stepfather, authority figures in their life. And so adjusting to masculine safety is a real process. And a lot of women actually don't want to do it. They're like, no, I'm independent. I don't need a man. I don't want this. And like they will actively not participate in masculine safety. And that's a very tricky situation to solve. There's specific things you have to do to make that work.
Deal with it, but it's trickier.
But yeah, you have to take a different angle. But it's definitely this process of like, okay, first accepting the safety is real, and then testing if it's real, and then looking at your own behavior and going, oh man, I screwed up a bunch. Now I got to admit all that stuff. And so there's all these stages you have to go through. But after all of that, let's go this direction. How did it make you change in the way that you treated me?
Well, once I recognized that I wasn't showing up as the partner I wanted to be and that you deserved and that we deserved as a couple, I just started to shift. I started to shift the way I speak to you, the things I ask of you. I started to feel people. This language is kind of overused, and I don't know what other language to use when I say this. I really started to feel like I could rest and relax and be in my feminine. And for me, what that meant was being at home. I used to be out of the house all the time, working out, going here, going there, and just very masculine, very I wanted to get things done and achieve. And when Matt started showing up for me and I started feeling safe and secure, I just loved being home. And I loved housework all of a sudden. And I'm not saying everyone's going to start loving doing housework, okay? I'm not saying this is going to happen to everyone, but this is what happened for me. I started loving taking care of the home and being more present and just being around Matt more. I wanted to be around him. The way he made me feel. I started baking, because the way he made me feel so secure, so safe, so loved, and so seen. It was like, I want that feeling all the time. And I'm not going to get that anywhere else. I'm not going to get that outside the house with my friends or at the gym. I mean, I still want to do those things. I still want to go to the gym once in a while. Regularly, and see friends once in a while. But where I really want to spend most of my time is in the way I'm made to feel, and in the way we make each other feel, when we're connected, and when he feels respected and appreciated and secure, and when I feel supported, safe, seen, and loved, and so it just brought us a lot closer, and it made me so much more devoted to him. And what I mean by that is we all have an idea of devotion, but it can get tested in the sense of, someone might say something about your husband that's not very nice. And maybe in the past I would have been like, oh yeah, okay, I can see that. I can see how Matt can be that way. But we've been working on our marriage for years, and we've been
been in a very good place.
In a very good place for years. What I mean. So at this point, I'll speak to near the beginning, when someone would say something, it's like I at first just wouldn't respond. I just wouldn't. Okay, that's your opinion. Okay, that's fine. But then it got to the point where it was like, hey, if you're gonna speak like that about my husband, I'm not gonna participate. I don't even want to be around you. This is a unit. This is an unconditional unit, and I don't care what anybody has to say or tries to do. This is it. If you're speaking negatively about him, you're speaking negatively about me. It's the same as you speaking negatively about my children. Yeah.
So we went from the husband complaint club to I'm not participating in that
I'm
anymore.
not participating in it. It's beyond unwelcome. It's I won't be around you. You don't get to be in my life anymore. It's that. That's what it was for me.
Yeah, and some other things I would add is you started just being, honestly, what I want and what I need from you as a wife. You started being more affectionate. You started showing me appreciation. You started complimenting me more. You started bragging about me to other people in front of me. You started building me up a lot. You started talking to me about what a great job I did. And like, as a man, we all know when we're not getting that from our wives, because so much of our life is directed at making the people that depend on us happy, right? Our wife, our kids, our extended family, our parents, our friends. Like, we want them to look at us and go, you're doing a good job. We appreciate you. And when you're not getting that, like, it just crushes your soul as a man. It takes all the fuel out of your engine. And I started getting all that. And she would look at me. And I remember like the first couple times this happened, because it was so different. Like, she looked at me with these big eyes, kind of looking up at me. Even if I was laying in the bed and she's looking down at me, it still felt like she was looking at me. And you know, it's just this amazing feeling as a man. And I started getting that instead of a few times a year. I started getting that most of the day, every day. And then it kind of went into other things. Like, Whitney started going out of her way to do things for me that I didn't even know that I wanted her to do. She'd bring me little things throughout the day. She would, put my clothes away for me. She'd like do these little things that, we're kind of trained to look down on and say like, that's a demeaning thing to do. But for me, it's like, hey, when I'm not a very tidy person, and when Whitney goes into my closet and there's like 10 shirts on the floor because I'm a bum, and she like hangs up all my clothes, which she could easily be like, hey, Matt, stop being a child, pick up your shit. This is embarrassing. And instead she's like, oh, I'll put his clothes away for him. And then I walk in my closet, I'm like, oh, my wife put away my clothes for me. It feels really good. It might seem stupid to some people. I don't think it's going to sound stupid to you guys watching.
Complementary strengths and weaknesses, right? I don't mean that like my strength is putting away clothes and whatever. What I mean is like he's not, his strong suits are vast and varied. They are not in organizing and tidying, but he feels so much better, and he can get on with his day so much better when his life is tidy and organized. I do happen to have that strength. I'm not amazing at it, but I'm pretty darn organized and tidy. And so when I can help bring that into his life, I lift him up and myself, because one of my strengths is to keep things organized, keep everybody kind of on track, and then all of our lives run smoother. And I get to bring that to our life. And that is absolutely not demeaning. It's empowering that I have that much impact on the lives of my family, of my kids, and of my husband. And I wouldn't have been able to recognize that in a state where I didn't feel safe and secure, particularly safe. And I was able to flourish in my role in that way.
Yeah, and I think that's really beautifully said. And to kind of wrap everything up, because we're going a little bit over here, the bottom line is Whitney is very much like all of us. She's going to act from how she's feeling. And if she's feeling unsafe, she's going to be making decisions. She's going to be prioritizing her time. She's going to be speaking from a place of feeling unsafe. And if she's feeling safe, she's going to be acting from that place. And when she's acting from that place, she makes decisions probably more slowly and more deliberately. She makes decisions with everybody's interests in mind. And she spends so much time, and the male brain can't understand this, or at least mine can. You spend so much time thinking about the needs of the people around you, of your friends, of me, of the kids. And it's very natural for Whitney, when she's in a safe place, to be like, well, I want to take care of all the people that I love, and I want to anticipate their needs and do things for them and get things set up for them. But when she's not feeling safe, none of that's going on, right? She's like thinking, okay, how can I find safety? How can I get away from this feeling of not feeling safe? So bottom line is, everything gets better when you provide emotional safety. When the emotional tone and tenor of your home is safe and welcoming and warm, she doesn't need to read books on how to be a good wife. She doesn't need to go see a couples therapist. She doesn't need to hire a coach. She knows how to do the things because she's innately and intuitively connected to the people that she loves, and she can do the things that she knows you want from her. But it's only going to happen when she's feeling safe. Anything you want to add to that before we wrap up?
Once women are in a place of safety, or the men are starting to make changes, it is very beneficial for women to then seek some kind of support in that environment, just because we also have a lot to work on in a relationship as the other half. So yes, Matt's right in that we don't need a whole bunch of coaching and things to show up the way that we're naturally kind of meant to, the way that we naturally things kind of fall in place. But we're getting some support along that journey is for sure helpful, I think.
Yeah, because you can shorten it from 3 years to 3 months.
Yeah, that's fine.
So yeah, with that said, I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments what was helpful, what we could have focused on more. Let us know what you want in future videos, both from me or from Whitney and I together. And if you would like to work with me one-on-one to help heal your marriage, to help figure out what's going on with your wife and get your marriage back to a state of connection and intimacy and commitment, there's a link in the description for this video. You can book a call and explore the options we have of working together. Good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.